battle.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Dash and Dave here. We're going to do a double take, but we're not arguing with each other. We're actually kind of celebrating. We're kind of collaborating. We're talking because we're excited because A22 decided to give UEFA the big bird. And by the big bird, I mean the middle finger, because they just announced today that the Super League is back. It never dies. Just like Cobra Kai, it never dies. In this case, the Super League. So Dave and I are going to talk to you about whatever A22 said today and their announcements and kind of our thoughts on it. Right?
Yeah. And who A22 is. First and foremost, I'll just say that real quick. They're a European sports development company. They're just a company essentially that have been tasked to create the Super League. They create sports, essentially, but they are. And their CEO, which we'll talk about a bit, Bernd Reichart, he had a few statements today. So we'll go over that. We're still going to argue, but I'm a little upset. I tried to do some research today. And of course, being an English speaker, go on YouTube, all the media I get is going to be pretty much out of England. And holy crap, is their bias so strong. It's just bad. It's bad. And we'll get into it. I want to debunk a couple of things that they've been saying and just try to put a different perspective than maybe you guys have also witnessed as well out in the media. So, yeah, we'll break that down. We'll give a little opinions, and I still have some pros and cons as well. And I'm sure Dash over here has got a good little viewpoint as well.
Yeah, so kind of giving you guys the basics of what the Super League is right now it's a multi-divisional front. So there's going to be multiple divisions. We don't know the structure of the divisions or how they're going to structure them, but apparently it's going up to the potential of 60 to 80 clubs. Again, multi-divisional format, so you might have 4 divisions of 15 if you do 60, or even more if you have 80. This was the big selling point because a lot of people were bitching about it the last time they did the ESL, the European Super League. Now it's called the Super League. So if we want to be actually like technically correct here, there is no permanent members. So I know a lot of people lost their shit last time because it was the teams that signed on were the permanent members. Nobody can get in, nobody can get out. The minimum requirement is 14 matches per season. So roughly, guys, that's almost essentially going to the Champions League final as far as games played. So each team will essentially play enough games to get essentially what the Champions League final is. So what I'm assuming is this might be predominantly a group format, because if you're playing 14 matches, I think it's a group format. That's not including knockout stages. I think maybe knockout stages have the potential to extend the 14 if there's even going to be knockout stages, because all we really know is, again, the amount of teams that it can go up to, the format as far as multi-divisional, not a single division. Again, I think they wanted to iterate this. There is a relegation and promotion within the divisions and the actual league itself. And then again, the minimum is 14 matches per season. So the end goal objective is to drop a giant turd on Ceferin's UEFA, because kind of what the objective of this is essentially when you have a multi-divisional format, you're trying to get rid of the Champions League, the Europa League, and the Conference League all in one sweep. And to be honest with you, I'm 100% for it, because my thing is and also there's other people that have made videos about this too, and I agree with it. When you have a Super League, let's say the top division of the Super League, and you have games, weekend games, or whenever they do it, I think Wednesday nights or whatnot. They haven't even released that, but you have a game, like a top tier game of Manchester versus Barcelona, Real Madrid versus Liverpool, where you have those clashes on a consistent basis. It is incredible. I would love that. And you can come at me and say, well, you're an American. That's why you love this stuff, because it's Americanization of the thing. Shut up. I don't want to watch Boda Glint versus Leverkusen. I don't want to watch Schalke 04 versus Basel. Like,
but you still might have the opportunity to do that if you wished.
You could,
because it's multi-divisional, right?
It is
multi-tiered.
It is, but like the thing is if I'm looking at it from the premier level, because like, for example, the Champions League has that. They have some groups now where they are absolute garbage. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. Because like, for example, you'll have like, no disrespect to Porto, but like you'll have, like, for example, the best team in a group is Porto, where you have a bunch of Eastern European clubs and some club in Central Europe that's playing in the Champions League. And then that's the matchup for the week or the day. No, I want Real Madrid versus Manchester City. I want PSG versus Liverpool. I want those because here's the thing. Once you start playing a club more consistently, you start developing rivalries. That's how it works. It's how
And
rivalries
counter
work.
tactics. You can't keep
Yeah.
on throwing the same tactic week in, week out, because these
Yeah.
guys will figure you out.
It evolves the game as well because it forces teams to evolve at a much more frequent pace because, again, go ahead.
Sorry, just to add on to evolving the game is giving the ownership say of the sport, not just some dude in an office. But yeah, sorry, cut you off there.
So the thing is like, for example, when you're playing against a Real Madrid consistently, you're playing a Barcelona consistently, you're playing against these top tiers, these top teams and styles, you adjust your styles, you learn new techniques. Because the thing is let's be real here for Juventus. Let's talk about Juve here. We play against Cremonese. We play against Sampdoria. We play against these teams who consistently throw 5 people back. Every single week, it is the same product, the same result in Serie A. Especially in the Champions League, when the Champions League is maybe the only time, the few weeks, the few moments of the season where we see a team play differently or we see a different style. And even then, it's only because we're playing against a PSG or a Benfica. Like, for example, Maccabi Haifa doesn't play a consistent high-level game. And before you Champions League sympathizers come at me and say, well, it's tradition and blah, 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 the Champions League was originally intended for champions of each league, not 3 or 4 places, not throwing qualifiers in Eastern European countries that absolutely have no business being in the Champions League. You want to know why? It's because it's a monopoly. UEFA wanted the money and they got the money. And that's why you have the current format and why this format's terrible. Because let's be honest here, UEFA is a third party that's trying to make a buck. And go for it.
But so is the Super League. And that's going to be the rebuttal, right?
That's is.
What they want. That's what they are going to say is, oh, they're just money grabbing. They just want the piece of the pie for themselves, which isn't wrong.
Yeah. So the thing is with the new Super League there's a brand new revenue structure. There isn't the stupid financial fair play that you can plus Valencia the shit out of it to get away from it. There's a way. It's almost kind of like a salary cap to an extent, where you have a salary cap of what your expenses and what your purchases and all of that is. It's that. And also, here's the beauty of it. Clubs get more money. It's not UEFA giving them the scraps.
Okay, but this is why people don't like it, because the English media is so heavy, especially in the footballing world. It is the media powerhouse. Like it or not, it is what it is. And this is, especially in the English-speaking world, this is what we're getting fed, is their perspective. And they have the piece of the pie right now. They just look at us like, oh, poor us, we're second rate. They look at us as a feeder league, which we are. What they don't understand, maybe some of them do, and there are a couple that have actually hit on this point, but teams like Juventus, Barcelona could be, and I know maybe not in Germany, but Bayern would be up in one of those top level teams, right? That look at who Bayern plays week in, week out. Not really anything
Nobody.
great. PSG, who do they play week in, week out? So if you actually get these teams together, and now this is where they'll rebuttal too. It's like, oh, if Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Juve want to play together every week, then they can play each other every week, and screw it, it'll be fine. You know what? You know which teams do that hockey has, for rivalries, they have to play each other at least 6 times a season. And it's a rivalry. My Toronto Maple Leafs have to play the Montreal Canadiens a couple hours down the road 6 times a year, not including the playoffs. And it's electric every single time it happens. Think about the Derby d'Italia, Inter Juve. Imagine if that happened minimum 6 times a season. And how much more insane that rivalry would be. So fans are out there saying, oh, it's bad for the sport. How could you say it's bad for the sport and then you go and watch the NBA?
Yeah. It makes no sense.
Open your face. Like, what are you looking at?
And the thing is too, and here's the funny thing about the Premier League schmucks. I'll say this, because they're the ones that are defending it now, because it's currently England's cycle to be the dominant powerhouse in the Champions League. I bet you when they were the laughing stock of the 2010 era, like from 2010 till when Liverpool won it, because they were banter. Because they would always get out in the round of 16 and everyone would make fun of the Prem. I guarantee you back then they'd be like, we need the Super League so we can catch up to Barcelona and Real Madrid because those two have been bending us over, and Bayern Munich. Now that Man City's had some consistency, even though they flopped in the finals, now they're, or like, for example, Liverpool, where
Save them for that one.
I know. But the other thing is, now when you start having those squads that are kind of going in deeper into the Champions League, they're like, well, I don't know about this Super League thing, because now we're not going to have our financial powerhouse backings like we used to. Because here's the thing too. So the Super League, when it comes to the salary cap, they're doing it this way, where they said you can only spend as much as you earn. You cannot use any capital injections, or you cannot compete. So they're very, very strict on that. So like, for example, PSG, Man City, you're not going to be able to do capital injections. Same thing with us, with Elkin and them. They can't do capital injections. It's whatever revenue that's been earned in by the club is what you're allowed to spend. So it's a stricter salary cap. It's a stricter spending cap per se. And to be honest with you, I'm all for it, because I'm getting really irritated with the Champions League. I've been irritated with the Champions League for about 10 years now. The product isn't that good. Like, it's ridiculously predictable at this point, where you have, and the thing is like, the gap isn't getting any better, because like, I get angry when people tell me about these stupid underdog stories. Like, for example, Morocco. Like, oh my gosh, like Morocco, man. Or like, what else is an underdog story that we've had in the Champions League? Like, you have an underdog.
Atalanta made a bit of a run. You have the Ajax once in a while. You know,
It's
you
like,
get those.
yeah, like you get one of those like miracle runs. And to be honest with you, unless if they win the whole thing, it's absolutely stupid and a waste of time. Because, like, for example, I'll use Morocco, and people can stone me for this one, but Morocco essentially robbed us of a Portugal-France semifinal in the World Cup, because it's like, for me, I don't really care that much about the underdog teams. They don't really mean that much to me, because like, the thing is like, you get into a nice patch of form and you run it. You're never going to run it back. You're not going to have that consistency of being, that team. Because like, for example, Atalanta during the COVID year, they had that miracle run where they lost to PSG in the last 2 minutes of extra time because they forgot how to play defense. Okay, next season they flopped out and went to the Europa League and got knocked out by Frankfurt.
But here's a bit of a rebuttal. It's kind of in your favor. And again, because you watch North American sports, is that you do have teams, even if it's a closed system, 30, 32 teams, what have you, and the team is 32nd year in, year out, and then 1 year they make it to the semifinals. You still get that. It's because your relative competition is that much harder, that an otherwise good team in, say, La Liga or Ligue 1 is now all of a sudden struggling to compete for top spots.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. So like, for example, if this follows anything similar to an American model per se, with US sports, your franchise could be the shittiest franchise for 3 to 4 years, but because of how the salary cap and how spending is orchestrated as, you can turn your team around in 3 to 4 years and make it into a contender. Here, you're not going to make Sampdoria a contender unless you have oil money. You're not going to make Cremonese a contender in 3 or 4 years. It's not possible. So like, for example, all of those teams, those Eastern European teams that are making it, that are limping through the qualifiers in the Champions League just to get bent over with 0 points and finish fourth in their group, or get like a couple points, like a lucky upset or two, there's no chance for them. Like there literally isn't. Like, it's a 1% possibility of them making it through the knockout stages and then doing something. Because the gap between them and Real Madrid or your top tier clubs is way too big. It will never, and I mean never, close. Whereas if you have hypothetically a 15-team Super League team right now, or league right now currently, where it is Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Chelsea, Man City, Man United, Inter, AC, Juve, I'm thinking Dortmund, PSG, all of those clubs are relatively within striking distance of each other. And if that's the tournament or the league, any one of those guys can win that whole thing. And how do you not want that as a fan?
Especially when you play them multiple times and you start learning their ins and outs. And that's the beauty of it. That's, again, the evolution of the game.
Yeah. Could you imagine if Juve had a rivalry with Bayern Munich or like, for example, with an English club or a French club, where, you know, we're always close, but these guys always beat us or something like that. Because my thing, in my opinion, is why does the rivalry for Juve always have to be Inter and AC Milan? Why can't we globalize it? Because the thing is for us as Juventini, we want more fans. We want more globalization of the sport.
I want to share this with
I
more
want to
people.
share it. Yeah. And with the Champions League, or not with the Champions League, but with the Super League, you have the opportunity to bring more people in together with this, because you're going up against Liverpool people. You're going up against Arsenal people consistently, because in the Champions League, it's a draw. You don't have a guarantee. You might get a cakewalk group.
And truly, this is how it becomes a global league.
Yeah.
A global sport. This is
Like,
how you grow the sport to the next step. It's 2023, guys. Like, we have to think forward. We've been stuck in the same cycle for a few decades now. Time to move on. It's the pigs, right? George Orwell, the pigs, they got fat. That's the Premier League right now. They got fat, they got greedy, they're resting on their laurels. It's time for everyone else to pick it up, change the future, make it better.
Yeah. And guys in the chat or comments as well, guys, like, if you're for it, if you're against it, especially if you guys are against it, we want to hear what your guys' thoughts, because if you guys post in some pretty decent comments, of course, don't be an ass and don't troll with some stupid comments. But if you give us some really good arguments on our next live stream, we will actually address your comment live.
Absolutely. And get in on the live. We'll address this again with you guys. We just want to get more well thought out, to the point, less distracted, as you know we like to do, right? So here it is. I hope you liked it, and we definitely want to hear from you.
Yeah, and on that note, guys, make sure you guys like the video, shoot a comment. Again, please give us your comments, because the more feedback that you guys give us, especially on a topic like this, we can belt feed it into our lives, and we can actually have a really cool discussion, because this kind of will give us the opportunity to host a call-in show where you guys can call in and we can actually debate with one another. So guys, please make sure you guys throw in a comment on your guys' thoughts on this. Again, hit the like, do the subscription. Thanks to everybody that got us over to 1,000 subscribers. Dave and I, sincerely from the bottom of our hearts, we love you guys. It's only been a 6-month project for us, and we're having absolutely the time of our lives.
Loving it.
So thank you guys, and we will catch you on the next one.
Forza Juve.